Hello and welcome to the EEPROM 9. We might as well come back from my month-and-a-half hiatus with something decent. So here we go. The build video to my mini quad. So, we start off basically assembling the motors. Standard practice, putting on the things that the props mount to. Assembling each of those goes together quite nicely actually. One of those arms was a bit of a finicky bugger and I had to redo the screws later on. But one thing to do is use Loctite. Now I'm not going over in any specific detailed instructions, there's no point. RC Model Reviews has done an already excellent job of doing it in the first place. In fact, this is what I was following. I'm typing away at the keyboard, which is basically going through the process of watching his video on it, along with a few others just to keep my mind occupied, because I quite like to have things like YouTube videos going in the background when working on projects like this, especially when you're doing the more repetitive parts of producing stuff like this, when you're working on 4 of the same motor arms. There's also a period where I delay because at the moment I'm also charging the batteries at the same time, so they'd be ready to go when I get the quads built. There's my receiver, just testing all the ESCs and motors, making sure they all work. Also trying to figure out the polarity that I'm going to need for the motors. They go on specific ways because 2 of the motors need to go clockwise, the other 2 need to go counterclockwise. This is the point where it's pretty much delaying because the battery was charged and it was almost fully charged. Should have been a bit better, should have left charging the batteries till after building the ESC arms, but live and learn. And at this point I didn't have the battery hooked up. Now I will eventually cut off the front bullet connectors of the front of the ESCs that connect to the motors. The points where I disappear and reappear, I kept being called off to help Mum with Facebook, which was annoying. But such is life. So I just hooked them up temporarily, procrastinate a bit. Finally the battery's finished charging, so now I can actually test them to find out the direction the motors go and work out what motor should be 1, what should be 2, what should be 3 and what should be 4. And then I'm looking for my labels, write down 1, 2, 3, 4, snip it up, put it on the arms. That way I know, got the motors hooked up. Then get called down to Facebook again, hooray. That kept happening that evening, it was quite annoying. And then of course now we're actually doing the snippy snip of wires. Always tin your wires before you solder them on. Desoldering these wires off these ESCs was actually a real pain. For some weird reason, the last 2 are always alright, but the first one was always a bit of a pain. I think it's the lead-free solder. That's my transmitter again, just testing it. For those curious, that is a Spectrum DX8, lovely transmitter, absolutely gorgeous user interface. Seriously, I have not come across such a nice user interface in a long time. Because a lot of user interfaces these days are goddamn terrible. Now I soldered these on for integrity and also the fact that the cable length would be far too long with the connectors on, so they had to go. By go doesn't mean they go in the bin, they got reused later because I kept the bullet connectors on the actual other ends of the ESCs so I can remove all the motors in the ESCs without having to do any desoldering work, which would make maintenance easier because these are the sorts of things you crash and smash. There you go, I think I'm going down for dinner this time. Come back. Nope, I got called to Facebook again. Because my parents still lack an understanding of how to use Facebook properly. It's quite annoying. But such is life. Now we're doing the last motor. Tin all the wires. Always tin your wires. Struggle desoldering the red one. Camera falls off the thing there. That's gravity being its usual self. A pain in the arse. And so that's all soldered on, we go, and woohoo! Just a little bit of refinement to get out the solder bridges it forms, because they always like to do that and test it. It works! Yay! Now in hindsight I should have actually put those zip tie things on at the very end rather than wasting most of the material, but live and learn. I Loctited all but the self-locking screws because the bolts which bolt the frame together are actually self-locking. Bolting the frame together was an absolute pain. I also had to do some screw swapping. You may have been able to notice that. So I put those on, then after that I put the naze board on because I'm procrastinating the horrible wiring job ahead of me, and yeah, it was pretty horrendous. Well, it wasn't the wiring job that was the problem, it's putting the two sides together because I made the power distribution board too big, which was a real pain in the bum. That was just pure evil trying to get that thing together. Surprisingly, it didn't take as long as the ESCs, which surprised me, putting the ESCs and arms together. Still, you can see it's a fairly long project. You can count the number of minutes it took. You know, I looked at the clock at one point at 7, and by the time I'd finished it was 11, so I was building this for a good number of hours. Probably spent more time building it than flying. This is where I'm getting all the bits for the power distribution board, and eventually there's an AS32 board, just deciding on how I want the connectors, because, well, it's my build, it's various different other people's builds, such as RC model reviews. You got to adjust it to your needs, not just build it how they have it. That's the process. Soldering in the connectors didn't turn out to be too bad. There were some bridges, but I've got so used to soldering over the years, it's not really a problem, especially with solder wick. Big ass bundle of wire, because the Spectrum receiver does not support PPM. Grr. I don't know why it doesn't support single wire communications, but it'd be really handy if it did, because I could have forgone having that massive connector sticking out the side of my quad, then I could have just soldered it straight to the pads and woohoo! That would have been perfect. And now I've got dinner. I just scoff it like a complete animal. I have terrible eating table manners. I always have. I remember a book that I had when I was little on table manners, and I just found it funny and saw it as the book to follow on how to do the table manners in the way that was funny. Right now we're building power distribution board. Probably watching some more zero punctuation there. Go back, get out the bits again, look for PCBs which were hiding. Get the Dremel, cut it up. And also you can see what looks to be a bald spot forming on the top of my head, which is, no, please don't do that. I don't want to go bald, I like my hair. The tin it all makes soldering a hell of a lot easier, because this stuff is not really the best for the job. Use some fuse wire, which is 5 amp fuse wire, which I've put 5 amps through and handles it perfectly fine. But yeah, that was fairly simple. Then it's just a case of trimming down all the various bullet connectors, the bullet plugs. I should have made the power distribution board thinner. When I next have to open it up, I'll do that. I'll make that modification, because we've got a bulge in the middle of it at the moment, but holds up to crashes. That little red plug there, that's for the FPV, which I'm still yet to have. I've had terrible trouble trying to get the FPV set up, blowing up cameras and whatnot. There's my looky like bald patch. Oh god, I don't like the idea of losing my hair. I know I've already got a receding hairline at the front, which is hidden by my long hair, but it's there. You can be assured there. I really don't want to lose my hair. I need to speak to someone who's actually qualified and see if there's actually anything to halt the hair loss or not, or whether it's just something you have to put up with and accept that life's shit. That's a bit of a pain to solder too, due to the sheer amount of solder and thus heat required. There we go, a bit of plastic, tying it into place, getting the cables in, and then this comes the most horrible bit of the build, actually putting the two halves together. You'll notice I spend a lot of time finicking about here. I did standard video, like short stages, but I'm not going to bother using that because I think it was better in this format personally, rather than my usual format, which is shit. Here you go, you can see me shoving it on brute force, taking screws out. Oh god, it was horrible. That bit was a real arse. I would not recommend. I'd recommend definitely getting your power distribution board thinner so it doesn't counteract the screws from the nose board, or maybe mount the nose board somewhere else. Depends, it's your build, you do it your way. But this thing flies like an absolute rocket. But yeah, it goes together nicely, getting all those in, lock tight, you know, you make sure you use your Loctite where necessary. And just carry on, like I do. So, this is the point where we've mostly got it together, we're just tightening it up now, just getting the last of the screws in, pop the bolts on, which by the looks of it there's only 5 to go in, so tighten it up nice and tight. It's going to take some quite heavy impacts, and it already has. Yeah, I haven't managed to break, mind you saying that, I've managed to damage the flight controller. I think that's to do with how I mounted the receiver on top of it, so it also took abuse from the receiver when it crashed, so used a lot of epoxy. I had to add a lot more epoxy to hold that on in the end. It's like got a full blob on the front, but yeah, that was salvaged from an old busted MP4 player. Probably watching, yeah, I'm watching the configuration stuff for the nose board. Definitely, because I plugged it in, get pulled down to Facebook again. Grr. I don't know how much time I'm wasting on uploading sodding photos to Facebook. Oh, I wish my parents would learn how to do that, make my life a lot easier. You know, I don't mind being called in for the more complex tasks, but stuff like that might as well bring it down to there to show the progress, do more filming. Oh yeah, I'm doing some modifications to that, just testing it works, fold it round later on. Now, where I mount the receiver here was not a very sensible place, as I mentioned about the damage to the nose board. I've since mounted it at the front of the quad, which is to the right from the video. The video's right. And yeah, just wire it up, make sure that everything's in the right place. Then the next thing should be configuring the nose board. The nose 32 is an excellent little flight controller though. I just put the fact that I damaged mine down to luck of the draw. I've got a new one on order. That'll arrive when it arrives because it's coming all the way from China, so that'll take 5,000 years to get here. If you live in Japan, Australia, I think the arrival times are shorter. You'll see it in a bit where I'll be sitting there fiddling with my transmitter, just configuring everything. I actually left it on the floor, so it beeped to me at one point. So if you leave it on for 10 minutes, but yeah, this is where I'm sorting out the rates and configuring it so it matches the nose setup. And so on and so forth. Goes quite nice, little quick process, activated and deactivated the board several times without realising it. Those batteries, I don't know, they do get quite hot during flying, and they may not be quite high enough to see, but the thing's still snappy as hell and still flies like a bat out of hell, which is exactly what I want. Be quite fun to beef it up some more though, make it even more crazy. But yeah, continue with the configuration. That would have been another one I got called off the sodding Facebook. There it is sitting on the floor, more bits coming out of the cupboard. Oh, this is where I got called to set out the suit because there's all shoe boxes piling up in the corner because I had a presentation the next day. Yeah, I literally left the preparing for the presentation till the last minute. I had a quadcopter to build, god damn it. Sod the presentation for my thesis. I did well in that anyway, because presentations I enjoyed doing them. Mount the top on temporarily, I didn't use Loctite. I was lucky I didn't lose any screws during the flight test. One thing I did lose were 2 of the prop mounts. I thought they'd hold up for at least long enough to get some test flying in. Nope, one flew off and hit one of the cars and hit the fence. Found it under my car the next day. There you go, so I just came back to put lock nuts on. You can see the individual prop nuts sitting there. While the other one's still outside, it's now back with the rest. Now it looks like I'm putting everything away, yeah. Setting up. And it's time that dog comes in, probably to raid the bin and cause all sorts of trouble. Put everything away and get on with my uni work. my presentation I did that night. And there's not much point continuing beyond this, but yeah, that's quite funny actually. Always the way. So, on to the next part, which is the flight footage. Yes, I mounted a camera to it, and it's pretty damn awesome. Right then, bear with any editing mistakes, as I have been editing this on a piece of open source software that I've never used before. But now we've got the flight footage, and when I end talking, we will go back to good old music and whatnot, going over it from Hurricane, because that's the one I'm listening to at the moment. But yeah, here we have the, well, first video, and I'll upload a later video with what's going on. So, I will leave you with a flight video. I have made many modifications and some repairs since building this, and I do apologise for the over 2-month hiatus I have been on. But I need a break from doing the whole YouTube stuff and editing and whatnot. But I will compile the other video, preferably, hopefully not too long into the future. So, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of the flight footage, and yeah, hopefully I won't be on my hiatus for too much longer. Bye!